Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to factor. Um, just the other day we started double distributing, and the reason we started with that is because pretty much what we're doing today is double distributing in reverse. Okay, so before we jump into examples, there's some things I want us to look at in the trinomial that we're going to start with before we factor it, and it's going to tell us a few things. It says if the last sign is a plus, so what I'm talking about the last sign is this guy right here. So you look at the very last one. If it's a plus sign, it tells you your two signs will be the same. So when we would double distribute, it would look like something like this, a binomial times a binomial. So in the middle, I know if the last sign is a plus sign, I know they will both be pluses, or they will both be minus signs. So they will look exactly the same if this guy right here is a plus sign. But if the last sign is a minus sign, that tells me the two signs will be different. So you see here, one is a positive, one is a negative. They'll be different. All right, so keep that in mind for this example coming up. All right, this method I'm going to teach you is called a tic-tac-toe method. I'm going to take this trinomial and we're going to factor it. So first of all, let's look at our last sign. This last sign tells me that the two signs will be the same, which means I'm going to have either a plus and a plus or a minus and a minus. So how do I know if it's two pluses or two minuses? Well, you look at the very first one. So since that one is a plus, that tells me we're going to have two plus signs, which means when I factor my answer, it will look like this. A plus here and a plus here. Okay, so I want you to take this first term and drop it right here in this first position. I want you to take your last term, which is 3, and put it in this next box. And then I want you to put your middle term, including the sign, in this bottom box. Okay, then what I want us to do is we're going to find the factors of 2x squared, and we're going to find the factors of 3. Well, the factors, guys, are two things that you multiply together to get this. So I know if I take 2x and I multiply it by x, it'll give me 2x squared. My factors of 3 are 1 times 3, but I also want to put it backwards as well. Those are the only two numbers that will together multiply to give me 3. Okay, so I'm going to take this 2x, put it here, this x, put it here. I don't know which one of these options it's going to be, so I'm going to try the first one. I'm going to put a 1 and a 3. After you do this for a while, you could probably start doing a lot of this in your head and it gets quicker. But for now, I'm going to start with the 1 times 3. All right, so then what we do is we multiply across. 2x times 1 is 2x. X times 3 is 3x. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to see if I can put these together in any way to get to a positive 7x. There's no way that I can use a 2 and a 3 to get to 7, so I know that that is not the option I want to use. So now I'm going to try this guy right here, the 3 and then the 1. So I multiply across. 2x times 3 is 6x. X times 1 is 1x. So can I get, with these two together, a positive 7? Yes, I can. I know a positive 6 and a positive 1 gives me a positive 7. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm going to slide my signs over. And then slide this sign over here. Notice, didn't we say our two signs would be the same and they would both be positives? There they are. All right, so to find my two factors, I'm going to make crisscross applesauce. So go crisscross this way, crisscross this way. So one of my factors is 2x plus 1. My other factor is x plus 3. So on the 7.2 notes, we would start with a problem that looked like this and end up with this as our answer. So now we're in reverse. If I were to double distribute and then simplify, I would get this. So we're just doing it opposite. So this is what you get if you factor 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so first of all, pay attention to your last sign. Because it is a minus sign, that tells me that my signs will be different. So I know I'm going to have one positive, one negative. All right, so we put our first term in the first box. We put our last term in the second box. And we put our middle term, including the sign, And I'm going to go ahead and put negative 1x. Same thing as a negative 1. All right, now we have to put our factors down here. So two things I can multiply together to give me 3x squared is 3x times x. And my factors of 2 are 1 times 2 and 2 times 1. All right, so I'll put 3x and x here. And I'm going to start with this guy. So 1 and then a 2. Multiply across. 3x times 1 is 3x. X times 2 is 2x. And I'm trying to figure out, is there any way I can use a 3 and a 2 to get to this negative 1? Keep in mind, we have to have one positive and one negative. And yes, I can. I know a negative 3 and a positive 2 will combine to give me a negative 1x. So I found something that worked. So I know it's not this one. This one worked. Perfect. This is the one. So I'm going to slide my sign over. My minus sign slides over. My plus sign slides over. And then crisscross applesauce. So my first factor is going to be 3x plus 2. And my other factor is going to be x minus 1. So if I were to double distribute and then simplify, this is what I would end up getting. Okay, always start by looking at your last sign because it tells you, since it's a minus, that my two signs will be different. So I know I'm going to need 1 plus and 1 minus. I'm going to put my first term in my first box, my last term in the box beside it, and my middle term, including the sign, in the last box. All right, so I need to find my factors of each of these. My factors of 7x squared is 7x times x. My factors of 5 is 1 times 5 and 5 times 1. I know I haven't said it yet, but this first one, guys, you don't have to do the flip-flop reverse style like we're doing here. That's only on this one. You have to do it both ways. Okay, so I'm going to put my 7x and my x. And I'm going to try my 1 and 5 first. And I'm going to multiply across. 7x times 1 is 7x. X times 5 is 5x. All right, so I know I'm trying to use a 7 and a 5 to get to a positive 34. There's no way I can add or subtract these two numbers to get to a 34, so I know that is not the way to go. So I'm going to erase. And now I'm going to try 5 and the 1. Multiply across. 7x times 5 is 35x. X times 1 is 1x. Keep in mind I have to have one positive and one negative, and I'm trying together to get to a positive 34. Well, I know a positive 35 and a negative 1 together will combine to give me a positive 34x. So we found the one that works. So slide your signs over. So slide my plus, slide your minus, and then we crisscross. So my first factor is 7x minus 1. My second factor is x plus 5. So if you wanted to check yourself, remember you could always double distribute, simplify, and see if you end up getting the same thing, which you should. All right, so I look at my last sign and I do that because if it's a plus, it tells me they're going to be the same. So I know it's either going to be a plus plus or a minus minus. And what tells me whether it's plus plus or minus minus is I look at the first one. Notice it's a minus sign, so I know it's going to be a minus minus. So we'll keep that in mind for a little later. Okay, first term in the first box, last term in the box beside it. Put your middle term, including the sign, down here. All right, so now we're going to find our factors. My factors of x squared is x times x. Okay, let's find my factors of 20. Okay, there's a little bit more this time. So I know it's 1 times 20. 20 times 1. 2 times 10. 10 times 2. 4 times 5. And 5 times 4. I just kind of went out to the side because I was running out of room. All right, so I'm going to put my x and my x. Okay, this is when we might want to start using a little bit of common sense. So remember, together we're trying to get to a negative 9x. So if I look through these, let's use a little bit of common sense. Which of these look like I can get a negative 9? So I'm going to use a 4 and a 5 because I know 4 and 5 together give me 9. So I'm going to skip all of these and jump here. So we multiply across. X times 4 is 4x. X times 5 is 5x. Remember, I'm trying to get to a negative 9. Also, keep in mind that they both have to be minus signs. So a negative 4 and a negative 5 combined. Negative 4 plus a negative 5 is a negative 9. So we found it. So we slide our signs over. Slide your negative. Slide your negative. And then we crisscross. So my first factor is x minus 5. And then my next factor is x minus 4. Okay, this one's going to take it up a notch. So I look at my last sign. That tells me my signs will be different. So we need to keep in mind I need one positive, one negative, one plus, one minus. So I put my first term in the first box, last term in the box beside it. And then our middle term, including the sign, in the last box. So the reason that this one is a little bit more difficult is because we have more than one factor that will give us this guy. So I know it's 6x times x. But it's also 3x times 2x. My factors of 10 are 1 times 10, 10 times 1, 2 times 5, and 5 times 2. Okay, so now it's just trial and error. You have to decide whether you want to start with 6x and x or 3x and 2x. After a while, you could probably get good at it to where you're making better educated guesses. But just for time's sake, guys, we're going to go ahead and skip 6x and x. I'm going to let you know that's not the one. But the way it would work is I would put 6x and x, and I would try it with each one of these options. I would find out that none of these options together would give me this. So then I would move on to this guy. So just for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and start here. We'll still have some trial and error, so it's okay. All right, so we already know that this one doesn't work. Let's pretend we already tried it. All right, so now I'm going to try the 3x and 2x with 1 and 10. So I multiply across. 3x times 1 is 3x. 2x times 10 is a 20x. So remember, together I'm trying to get to 11. There is no way a 3 and a 20 combined, either added or subtracted, will give me 11. So that does not work. So now I'm going to try the next one, 10 and 1. So I multiply across. 3x times 10 is 30x. Multiply across the bottom. 2x times 1 is 2x. So I try to combine these to get to 11, either adding or subtracting. There's no way a 30 and a 2 will give me that 11, so that doesn't work either. So keep working through our options. So my next option is a 2 and a 5. Multiply across the top. 3x times 2 is 6x. Across the bottom, 2x times 5 is 10x. So either by adding or subtracting, there's no way a 6 and a 10 will give me 11. So that's not working either. And then finally our option 5 and a 2. Multiply across the top. 3x times 5 is a 15x. 2x times 2 is a 4x. All right, I know a 15 and a 4 can give me 11 because 15 minus 4 is 11. Good. Keep in mind that one has to be a positive, one has to be a negative. I want to end up with a positive 11. So I know a positive 15 and a negative 4 combined gives me a positive 11. So I slide my signs over. We found the one that works. So I'm going to slide my plus over, slide my minus over, and then we crisscross. So my first factor is 3x minus 2. And my next factor is 2x plus 5. So as you can see, it can get kind of tedious, but the more you do it, the better that you'll be at just looking at it and figuring, okay, this probably isn't going to work if I'm looking for this. So the more practice you have, the quicker and faster you'll get, and better, I mean. Won't let me go up that high. Let me try this. Okay, I don't know. Sorry, it won't let the top of the page show, so I'm going to drag it down for now while I read it. It says the area of a rectangle is 5x squared minus 8x minus 4. The length is x minus 2. Find the width. Okay, so this one is a little bit different because it gives me the entire trinomial. We know area is length times width. So length is this guy times width will give me the area, which is this. So really what it's doing is giving me the trinomial, which is what we already had in those last few problems. But do you see how it's already giving me one of the factors? I just have to figure out what do I multiply this by to get this guy. So let's go ahead and fill this in. This is my first box. This goes in the box beside it. The middle term with the sign goes in my bottom box. So my 5x squared goes here. My 4 goes here. My minus 8x goes here. So I know one of the factors already given to me is x minus 2 times, we're trying to figure out what is this width? What am I going to be multiplying this length by to get this area? So trying to figure this out. Well, remember, one of the factors you get diagonally. So I'm going to put this x minus 2 diagonally. So this is actually going to be a little easier on us because one of the factors is already given. All right, so let's figure out what are my factors of 5x squared. Well, the factors of 5x squared are 5x times x. So if the x is here in this box, I know 5x has to go here in this box. Okay, let's find my factors of 4. Okay, here are all my factors of 4. Well, one of them is a 2. It's already given to me, so I know it has to be this guy right here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill my 2 in. Multiply across, x times 2 is 2x. 5x times a negative 2 is a negative 10x. Remember that sign was already given to me right here. So remember, together I need to get to a negative 8. Well, what does this have to be, a positive or a negative 2 in order to give me a negative 8? Well, I know a negative 10 plus a 2. So negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. So this should be a plus sign right here. So drag it over. Also, I should have known that if this one was negative, this one had to be a positive because, oops, if I look at my last sign right here, that tells me my signs are different. Notice, if one's a negative, the other one has to be a positive. Okay, so then you crisscross. So the x minus 2, that's the factor that was already given to me. This is the factor we just found. So my other factor, it has to be 5x minus 2. So if this is the length times, this has to be the width. So I know my width is 5x minus 2. Okay, same idea. So what's nice about this one, it tells me that there is a square bedroom. And so what we know about a square is that all the sides have to be the same. So when I'm taking my length and I'm multiplying by my width, I know the length has to be exactly the same as the width. So I know what my factors have to be the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug these numbers in. So my 25x squared goes here. My last term goes in the box next to it. My middle term, that plus 30x, goes in this very bottom box. Okay, so remember, these two have to be the same exact thing. So whenever I'm finding my factors of this 25x squared and 9, remember, they have to be the same. So what two things can I multiply together that are exactly the same will give me a 25x squared? Well, 5x times 5x. 5 times 5 is 25. X times x is x squared. Notice these two are exactly the same. Same idea with 9. What number times itself will give me 9? Well, 3 times 3. And remember, the only reason I know that these have to be the same is because it tells me it's a square bedroom. So I know these two sides must be the same. All right, so I'm going to put my 5x and my 5x. I'm going to put my 3 and my 3. Multiply across. 5x times 3 is 15x. On the bottom, 5x times 3 is 15x. Okay, right here, it's a plus sign, so I know that tells me my signs have to be the same. So either a plus plus or a minus minus. This tells me they both have to be plus signs. Also, it should make sense because a positive 15 and a positive 15 together give you a positive 30. So I slide my signs over, plus, plus, and I crisscross. So one of my factors is 5x plus 3. And my other factor is also 5x plus 3. So, because remember, we're finding the length times the width would give us this area, which was given. This is the length, this is the width. Or I'll rewrite that. So I'm going to write that the length is 5x plus 3. And I'm going to write that the width is also 5x plus 3. And I know I did it right because these two are the same. It told me it was a square bedroom, so I knew that the length and the width had to be equal. All right, bye guys.